My name is Olivia, and I had always believed that family was the strongest bond in the world. That was until my own blood. My identical twin sister, Omalicha, became my worst enemy.
Omalicha and I were born on the same day, with the same face, but we couldn't have been more different. Our parents, Igbo traders who moved to Lagos for business, always told us that twins were a blessing. But as we grew older, our differences became clear. I was the responsible one, focused on my education and career, while Omalicha was the wild one, always chasing wealth and pleasure. Our beauty turned heads wherever we went. While I remained humble, Omalicha used hers as a weapon. She loved expensive things, flashy cars, and rich men. I, on the other hand, wanted something deeper, true love, a stable home, and happiness built on trust. I thought I had found all of that when I met my husband, David. David was a successful businessman, kind-hearted, and deeply in love with me. We got married in a beautiful ceremony, and soon, our happiness grew with the birth of our son, Jason. Life seemed perfect, until Omalicha set her eyes on my husband. And that was when my nightmare began. From the moment Omalicha saw David, I noticed something unsettling in her eyes. She smiled too much around him, laughed at all his jokes, and always found an excuse to visit our home. At first, I ignored it. She's my sister, I told myself. She wouldn't betray me. But I was wrong. One evening, I overheard a conversation between Omalicha and her best friend, Tolu. Olivia doesn't deserve him, Omalicha whispered. She's too plain, too predictable. David needs someone more exciting. Someone like me. My heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I decided to watch and wait. I needed proof before accusing my own twin of something so evil. Little did I know that Omalicha had already planted the poisonous seed of destruction in my marriage. It started with little things, David suddenly spending more time at work, coming home late, and being distant. When I asked, he said he was just stressed. Then, strange things began to happen. My jewelry went missing. My perfume was being used, even when I hadn't touched it. I would wake up at night and feel like someone else had been in my bed. One night, I decided to test my suspicions. I pretended to travel for a business trip but secretly stayed at a hotel nearby. I called David, telling him I would be gone for 2 days. Then, I waited. At midnight, I went back to my house. My hands trembled as I opened the door. And there she was. Omalicha. In my house. In my bed. With my husband. The betrayal burned through me like fire. I wanted to scream, to tear them apart, but my body felt frozen. Omalicha looked up and smiled. "Welcome home, sister," she said, with no shame. David, the man I loved, looked guilty but said nothing. I couldn't hold back. "How could you?" I shouted, tears streaming down my face. "Omalicha, you're my sister." She stood up slowly, stretching like a satisfied cat. "And so what? Do you think because we share the same face, you deserve everything and I deserve nothing? You got a perfect life, Olivia. Now, it's my turn." David tried to speak, but I slapped him so hard that my palm stung. I ran out of the house, my heart shattered into a million pieces. That night, I made a vow I would not let Omalicha take everything from me. But I had no idea that she had only just begun. The next morning, I returned home to pack my things, only to find Omalicha already there, smiling like she owned the place. "You should leave," she said casually. "David doesn't want you anymore." I turned to David, searching his face for an explanation. "Is this true?" David sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Olivia, I never meant for this to happen, but Omalicha makes me feel alive. She understands me in ways you never could. My knees went weak. I gave you everything, David. Our marriage, our son. Jason stays with us, Omalicha interrupted. My blood ran cold. What? You're not stable, she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. A woman scorned is dangerous. It's best if Jason stays with his father. And with me. I felt like I had been stabbed in the heart. You will never take my son from me. But Omalicha was already 10 steps ahead. She had poisoned David's mind. And soon, she would try to take my child. I refused to give up. Jason was my son, my flesh and blood. I went to court demanding custody, but Omalicha had already turned David against me. He accused me of being mentally unstable, saying I was dangerous. I will not let my child be raised by a bitter woman, David told the judge. Tears filled my eyes as I saw Jason reach for me, crying, but Omalicha held him back. Say goodbye to mommy, she whispered into his ear. Jason screamed for me as they took him away. That day, I swore that Omalicha had won. But the battle was far from over. Months passed. I fought to rebuild my life, but the pain never left me. I had lost my husband, my son, my home. And the one person I had trusted the most had betrayed me. Olivia, the voice whispered. One evening, I received a call. It was Omalicha. For the first time in months, I hesitated. What could she possibly want? I made a mistake, she sobbed. Please, come to the house. Was this another trap? Or was fate giving me a chance to reclaim what was mine? I had to find out. When I arrived at the house, I found Omalicha in tears. David is gone, she wept. He left me for another woman. I felt no sympathy. And you expected what? Loyalty. The same loyalty you refused to give me. She fell to her knees, sobbing. I was wrong, Olivia. Please, I need your help. I looked at her, my heart torn. But then I heard a soft voice behind me. Mommy. I turned and saw Jason. My Jason. Tears filled my eyes as I rushed to hold him. He clung to me, crying. Omalicha had lost everything. And at last, my son was back in my arms. But I knew this wasn't the end. Omalicha would never stop. And if she tried again, I would be ready. I took Jason home, determined to start a new life. But Omalicha wasn't finished with me yet. One night, I woke up to find my house on fire. Smoke filled my lungs as I grabbed Jason and ran outside. Through the flames, I saw a shadow standing in the distance. Omalicha. Her face twisted in rage. If I can't have happiness, she screamed, then neither can you. She was willing to destroy me completely. And I knew the real battle had just begun. The police arrested Omalicha for attempted arson. She begged for forgiveness, but I knew better. As she was taken away, she whispered, "This isn't over." I held Jason close, my heart pounding. I had won this round. But deep down, I knew my wicked twin sister was coming back. And next time, she would be more dangerous than ever. After Omalicha was arrested, I thought my nightmare was over. I moved into a new apartment in Lekki, determined to rebuild my life with Jason. I found a good job, made new friends, and started to feel like myself again. But I should have known that peace never lasts when Omalicha is involved. One afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello, Olivia," a chilling voice whispered. My blood ran cold. "Omalicha. I'm back." My hands trembled as I ended the call. I knew she wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. But this time, I would be ready. The war was far from over. A week later, strange things started happening. Jason's school called me, saying that someone had tried to pick him up. When I arrived, the security guard told me it was his aunt, Omalicha. She was trying to take Jason again. That night, I called the police to report a restraining order violation. But the next morning, I found a letter slipped under my door. You can't hide Jason from me forever. I will take back what's mine. My hands clenched in anger. Omalicha wasn't just back, she was haunting me. And this time, she had nothing to lose. I installed security cameras and changed my locks, but Omalicha was always one step ahead. One evening, I returned home from work and noticed something strange. My perfume was open on my dresser, and my closet door was slightly ajar. Someone had been in my house. I grabbed a knife and checked every room, but no one was there. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Then, Jason ran up to me with a small teddy bear. "Mommy, look. Auntie Omalicha gave me this." My breath caught in my throat. She had been inside my home. And I had no idea how. I decided to fight back. I called David, the man who had once betrayed me. "Your mistress is trying to kidnap our son." He was silent for a moment. Then, he sighed. "Omalicha and I are over. She drained my bank accounts and left me in debt. Now, she wants Jason." "Yes," I said, my voice firm. "And I need your help to stop her." For the first time in years, we stood on the same side. We set a trap. David agreed to meet Omalicha and pretend he wanted her back. Meanwhile, I hid nearby, recording everything. When she arrived, she smiled sweetly at David, but her words were pure venom. "I don't care about you," she hissed. "I only want Jason. Olivia doesn't deserve him." She admitted to everything, the arson, the stalking, even breaking into my house. And I had it all on tape. It was time to bring her down. I went straight to the police with my evidence. But before they could arrest her, Omalicha struck again. She kidnapped Jason. My worst nightmare had come true. I searched everywhere, her old apartment, David's house, even hotels, but she had vanished with my son. Days passed with no sign of them. My heart ached with fear. Where had she taken him? Was he safe? Then, I received a text message. "Meet me at our childhood home. Come alone. No police." My heart pounded. It was a trap. But I had no choice. I had to get my son back. I arrived at our old family house in Enugu, where we had grown up. The place was abandoned, covered in dust and memories. I stepped inside, my heart racing. "Omalicha." I called. "Where is my son?" She emerged from the shadows, smiling like a predator. Jason sat beside her, looking scared but unharmed. "Relax," she said. "I would never hurt him. But I needed you to understand something, Olivia." "Understand what?" I snapped. She took a deep breath. "I was always the forgotten twin. You got the love, the attention, the perfect life. I had nothing." Tears filled my eyes. "That's not true. You had a choice, Omalicha. You chose this path." She shook her head. "No. Life chose for me." Then, she pulled out a gun. I froze. "Give me Jason," I pleaded. "Don't do this." But she smiled. "If I can't have happiness, neither can you." In that moment, something in me snapped. I lunged at her, grabbing the gun. We struggled, tumbling to the floor. Jason screamed. A shot rang out. I gasped as pain ripped through my arm. Omalicha had shot me. But I didn't stop. I fought with everything in me, thinking only of my son. Then, another gunshot. Omalicha's eyes widened. Blood spilled from her chest. She stumbled back, looking at me in shock. David stood behind her, holding another gun. She collapsed to the ground. It was over. The police arrived minutes later. Omalicha was rushed to the hospital, but the doctors shook their heads. She wouldn't make it. I sat beside her bed, watching my twin sister take her last breath. Olivia, she whispered. I just wanted to be loved. Tears streamed down my face. You were loved, Omalicha. You just never saw it. She gave me a weak smile. Then, with one final breath, she was gone. The battle was over. But the scars would remain forever. Weeks later, I stood at Omalicha's grave, Jason's tiny hand in mine. I forgive you, I whispered. And I hope you find peace. David placed a flower beside the headstone. We were all victims of our choices. I nodded, knowing he was right. Omalicha had destroyed so much, but I wouldn't let her control my future. Jason squeezed my hand. Can we go home, Mommy? I smiled. Yes, baby. Let's go home. For the first time in years, I felt free. As I tucked Jason into bed that night, I felt a strange chill in the air. Then, the lights flickered. And I heard a whisper. This isn't over, sister. I turned sharply, but no one was there. Had it been my imagination? Or was Omalicha's spirit still lurking, waiting for revenge? Only time would tell. After Omalicha's death, I thought I was free. But something wasn't right. At night, I heard whispers. The lights flickered. Jason woke up screaming, saying he saw Auntie Omalicha in his room. I told myself it was just trauma. The mind plays tricks on you after so much pain. But one night, I woke up to see Jason standing at the foot of my bed, staring at me. Mommy, he whispered, Auntie Omalicha says she's coming back. My blood ran cold. Omalicha was dead. But was she really gone? Desperate for answers, I went to my grandmother in the village. She listened to my fears in silence, then sighed deeply. Twins are spiritually connected, she said. Omalicha's soul is not at rest because of the way she died. I shuddered. What do I do? You must set her spirit free. Or she will never stop haunting you. I didn't believe in ghosts, but the nightmares, the whispers, the shadows in my home, I couldn't ignore them anymore. I had to end this once and for all. Following my grandmother's instructions, I traveled back to our childhood home in Enugu, the place where everything had begun. I stood at Omalicha's grave at midnight, holding a white candle. Omalicha, I whispered. I release you. Find peace and let me go. The wind howled, and for a moment, I swore I saw her standing in the darkness, her eyes filled with sorrow. Then, the candle blew out. Silence. Had I done enough? Or was this only the beginning? The next day, I returned to Lagos, hopeful that it was over. But that night, Jason woke up screaming again. She's here, he sobbed. She's angry. My heart pounded. Had I failed? Then, I heard it. A soft voice, filled with venom. You took everything from me, Olivia. Now, it's my turn. I turned slowly. And saw her. Omalicha. Standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Omalicha's ghost was real. And she wasn't done with me. You left me to die, she whispered. Now, I will take Jason with me. I sprang up, shielding my son. You will never take him. She laughed. You think you can stop me? Then, Jason's eyes rolled back, and he collapsed. I screamed. This was no longer just a haunting. Omalicha wanted my son's soul. And I had to stop her before it was too late. I rushed Jason to a powerful priestess, Mama Yugo, who listened to my story with deep concern. Omalicha's soul is trapped between the living and the dead, she said. She needs a body to return fully. And she wants Jason. Tears filled my eyes. How do I stop her? Mama Hugo prepared a sacred ritual. You must summon her and banish her forever. But be warned, this will be the final battle. I took Jason's hand, my heart pounding. Omalicha had always been my greatest enemy. Now, she was my greatest fear. At midnight, I stood with Mama Hugo in a sacred circle, holding Jason close. The air was thick with tension. Omalicha, the priestess called. Show yourself. The ground trembled. The candles flickered violently. And then, she appeared. Her face twisted with rage, her eyes glowing with unearthly fire. You cannot banish me, she shrieked. I will never leave. The room shook as dark energy filled the air. This was it. The final fight for my son's soul. Mama Hugo began chanting, calling upon the ancestors to take Omalicha's spirit away. But Omalicha fought back, screaming, trying to break through the circle. Olivia, she howled. I was your sister. Tears streamed down my face. You were my sister, Omalicha. And I loved you. But you chose this path. She reached for Jason, but the sacred fire flared up, stopping her. Let me go. She whispered, her rage turning to sorrow. The flames surrounded her, growing brighter. Then, she was gone. Forever. The house felt different. Lighter. The darkness that had haunted me for years was gone. Jason opened his eyes, his face calm for the first time in months. Mommy, he whispered, Auntie Omalicha is gone now. I hugged him tightly, knowing it was finally over. The war with my twin sister had ended. And for the first time in years, I felt truly free. Months passed. Life returned to normal. Jason smiled again. I focused on rebuilding my career and found love again with a kind man who valued me. But I never forgot. Omalicha's choices had destroyed her, but I had survived. I had won. One evening, as the sun set, I whispered, Goodbye, Omalicha. And the wind carried my words away, taking the last ghost of my past with it. The end.